Welcome back. I'm doing a reading on JoJo Siwa today, also known as Joelle Joanie Siwa. I didn't know what her full name was, so I had to look it up. I should say first and foremost that I'm not a fan. I don't watch her stuff, but on the other hand, I do want what is her highest good, what is reaching her highest self. I would love to see her do that, just like I'd like to see for any VIP that I read for on this channel. So I want to take a look at her astrological birth chart for just a second, and then I'll move on to my questions that I have for my tarot and Lenormand cards. So I should say that this isn't a comprehensive discussion of JoJo's astrological birth chart. That would take a long time, and I just want to hit some of the highlights. So the first one I noticed was her sun and her true node land in her Taurus, in her second house. So we all know what sun is. It's how we present to the world. It's often what we look like. Often you can talk a little bit about what you look like when it has the sun in Taurus. This is kind of like, with Taurus being an earth sign, she's going to be oriented more towards things that earth signs enjoy, like good food, fun travel, fun times with other people, for instance. They like to feel good. We'll talk a little bit more about how hardworking these people can be. Earth signs can be stubborn. They can often not listen to reason. And that doesn't mean that they don't, but it's a tendency that they avoid advice from others. They kind of tend to persist in their own understanding of the world, and sometimes that's cool. We need those kinds of people, but sometimes it falls short of where ideally a person should be. So sun, that's kind of how people perceive us and how we connect to the world. Her true node is her true purpose, her true call, part of what describes her true calling in life, and that is about it's about finding her perfect Queen of Pentacles, basically. When I think Queen of Pentacles, I think of someone who is grounded, who is stubborn for the right causes, right? But then goes with the flow, because that water element encourages her to be compassionate, to be loving, to be deeply intuitive, to have a proper mirror of oneself, right? With that water element, you do want to see an accurate reflection of yourself so that you can continue to improve. So ideally, she should be in that Queen of Pentacles kind of stage, but also true nodes are about something that we need to grow into. We're not going to be born into our greater purpose. We're not going to be born just heading towards our greater purpose. We need to go through life circumstances, and we need to acquire certain beliefs in order to start to head down that path to begin with. We need to have awareness about the fact that we need to change towards our true node. That's something that we need to have a realization about. And you don't need to give a flying fuck about your astrological birth chart in order to get a sense within yourself that you need to be doing this. And not everybody has that innate purpose, and that's where astrological birth charts can help. But I'm sure you know of people who knew from an early age that they wanted to be a doctor, a nurse, a rodeo rider, whatever it may be. There are some people who are in there, who understand who they are from a very early age. Anyway, when we get into JoJo, specifically because her sun and true node are in Taurus in that second house, that's going to be a pretty heavy focus on enjoying material wealth, enjoying her finances. That's going to include possibly eating out a lot, eating a lot of good food, going out for the good food experiences. There is the potential that she could become too comfortable in that kind of thing, in her money, in her wealth, in being able to do pretty much whatever she wants. There is the risk that she becomes too comfortable in that and doesn't change or resist change. There's always a risk with that. And it's interesting that I just started talking about change because her sun and true node, her true purpose, which are situated in Taurus in her second house, squares off, has a really tense relationship with her Uranus in Pisces, and it's in her 12th house of secrets. So that suggests to me that there's a really deep aspect of her that is able to dream really unusual stuff, to have some really unusual desires when it comes to what she wants out of her true purpose and what she wants out of people's understanding of her. Sometimes she's going to do some unexpected things. And as I'm recording this, she just went into her kiss stage, and I'm referencing the makeup, okay? She's definitely coming into this era where she wants to be perceived as an adult and not as high ponytail over to the side JoJo. She might start to use her full name because she might consider JoJo to be a baby name, and maybe that doesn't resonate, okay? But there's a possibility that she could enjoy using Joelle or Joanie more than she likes JoJo. It may be that she's keeping JoJo for the branding based on how she wants people to perceive her, with that sun sitting in her second house of value. And it's also closely tied to her creative outlet, I should say. We'll talk more about her creative outlet, what lands in her 5th house of creativity. But under the surface, even while she's being stable and consistent in what she knows people want her to do, there's a part of her that wants to break away, to reinvent herself, and I would hope come closer. There is that possibility with Uranus that it brings her closer to who she's supposed to be, brings her closer to her higher self, because Uranus is associated with Aquarius. We are currently going through a Pluto in Aquarius transit, and so part of her most recent transformation as of this recording, I think, could have something to do with it's a new era, and with that 12th house shaking things up from the inside out, I can see how this current Pluto in Aquarius transit could really shake things up. She can do something cool with that square tension. She can choose to do that, and I'm wondering if that Taurus, that stability, that earth energy doesn't encourage her to ground herself even in the light of things are shaking up. I may be attributing too much to her, but I do believe that there's more under the surface. I think that she projects a certain view because she knows that that particular aesthetic draws people in. We'll talk more. Actually, we'll start right now. I want to talk about her Saturn in Gemini, where it lands in her 3rd house of intellect, early education, communication, and technology. Right away, this is older people having an influence on her from an early age. They're able to communicate with her and communicate what they want with her from a very early age, because the 3rd house rules early education. It also rules technology. So from an early point, this kind of suggests that if it weren't for her being on Dance Moms, later on in life, she would have been on YouTube, or she would have been on some platform that would have put her out through the assistance of technology. It was always kind of there. Saturn in Gemini, with it being in that 3rd house of communication, is also suggestive of her being able to easily speak with older adults. And that is just something that's in her astrological chart. It's an innate talent within her, and that kind of helps you understand better why she was a child star. Not all child stars are going to have this exact placement, but there's something often in their personality or in how they've been taught, they've been trained to speak easily with older adults, and that's why they get as far as they do. She's born like this, y'all. The double-edged sword here is that she is easily led astray by older adults in her life. With that Saturn in Gemini, that means that they're able to lead her if they communicate just well enough, and because she already understands and communicates well with adults, that creates an unusual rapport, an unusual connection that a lot of other kids don't have with adults. Unfortunately, that means that she can be easily led astray by older adults, not even necessarily her parents or older people in her family or her friends even. She's just easily led by adults, whether for good or for bad. It's a real double-edged sword. And as if that isn't enough, she has Saturn and Gemini opposing her, Saturn and Gemini in her third house, opposing her Pluto in Sagittarius in her ninth house of journeys, life pathways, and higher education. I strongly suggest there will be a point, if that hasn't already happened. I strongly suspect, I should say not suggest, but I suspect that there might be a point where she pushes authority off completely. She says, enough is enough. I'm going to go my own way. That Sagittarius says, I'm going to expand, and if that means that you're not going to go with me, that means Pluto to our relationship, end to our relationship. Not like you could call it a death of an era, if you will, especially if that older adult has hung out with JoJo for a while. Not the psychic burps, but because that opposes, she's going to have a tendency to want to stay until she reaches her breaking point, and then she leaves. And ultimately, with that Pluto and Sagittarius in her ninth house of life pathways, she is ultimately supposed to rebel against authority figures that have no purpose in her life, and she's meant to find her own way. Now, I think that we often have like a negative connotation with rebellion, but when someone who's supposed to be the leader, the sage in someone's life, is giving bad advice, rebellion is not a bad thing. I hope that JoJo goes through that if she hasn't already gone through that. I wonder if her new Kiss makeup era style isn't tied somewhat to resisting the influence of an older mother figure earlier in her life. I'm getting a connection back to Dance Moms. There might be something back there that she's rebelling against, and not just being seen as cute little JoJo. Unfortunately, that's something that virtually every child star has to go through as they grow up. It's difficult, but that doesn't mean that she can't do this. On the other hand, it could also mean that she buckles down and doubles down on what it is older adults want to do with her. It could go either way. It could go up in the sense that she goes for her highest self. It could invert, and it could mean that she gives more control, hands more control over to older adults who have no business having control over her. Ultimately, she's meant to find her own way, and I hope that she does that kind of thing. Something else I should say is that her Saturn in Gemini suggests that when she has her Saturn return, that she's going to have a real reckoning with whether she's going to follow the adults in her life, or if she's going to follow her intuition, if she's going to follow her inner self, her higher powers, whoever they may be, the universe, her ancestors, her spirit guides, or I should say her guiding spirits. It's going to be a question of this is where she would either go more towards herself, or whether she would invert and head back to the adults who've had so much influence in her life. That's going to be a difficult one for her. I'm praying that she can do the best for herself, because what another difficult placement for her in alignment with that Saturn and Gemini is that she's got her Chiron in Capricorn in her 10th house. Chiron is that unhealable wound that no matter how hard we try, there's still something about it that hurts us, whatever that may be. Sometimes it's deeply personal to us. Sometimes it has to do with how other people behave. It really depends on the sign. It depends on where the sign lands, in what house, I mean. Because she has this unhealable pain, in a sense, in Capricorn, that suggests to me that authority figures are just going to be there. It's like she'll never be able to get away from them. Even if she matures in her understanding of them, there will be a part of her that still wants to get away, because that Saturn in Gemini is there. Gemini likes to be free. It's an air sign. So with Capricorn, the alignment planet, or the alignment sign, I should say, with Saturn, that's just going to be difficult. And because it lands in her 10th house of influence, she's an influencer, and it also has to do with fame, it's always going to be like, if she's going to be in the limelight, where she's gotten her money, where she's always been since she was a little kid, there's going to be this oppressive feel that if she's going to stay in the limelight, she's going to have to obey older authority figures. It's going to be just like Chiron and Capricorn is rough, because it's like having an omnipresent drill sergeant who's always there, working her ass, sitting on your chest, screaming in your ear. She's going to feel like fame sucks eventually, and it might be around the time of her Saturn return, because again, this is about Capricorn landing in Chiron. She has the potential to have a really hard time with being influential, with being famous, with being a role model, with people knowing her, just her walking down the street. She won't have freedom from that, even if she really wants to, and even if she really needs it. If there's a way for her to withdraw to an extremely secluded place, to like get a better understanding of herself, separate from her fame, separate from the older authority figures in her life, even the good, well-meaning ones, she needs to develop a sense of her own inner voice. She needs to develop an understanding of who she is, separate from what it is other people say. And that might be all about what this Saturn return will be. I feel like her Saturn return is going to be a powerful one, and it's a good thing if she can start working towards it now. It'll lessen the energy of how destructive it might feel that Saturn return will be for her. We can revisit that topic whenever she gets closer to that particular age. Right now, she's pretty young to be discussing that, but it is something that I see right now in her birth chart. Well, let's talk about some good stuff. Pluto in Sagittarius, in her 9th house of life pathways, journeys, travel, that kind of thing, trines or has a positive relationship Jupiter in Leo in her 5th house of creativity. So that's quite a bit of fire energy, I should say. You've got Sagittarius alongside its home planet of Jupiter in Leo. There's two powerful, and you could say that it's like cubed in this case, because Sagittarius and Jupiter are together and working well together in this particular transit. 5th house is all about what activates the inner child as far as creativity, doing stuff that makes you feel good, your artistic output. And let's just say that she's a singer, she's a dancer, she's an actor. This is absolutely deeply active, and part of why she's been able to reinvent herself in big ways and small ways ever since she was a kid. Think about how long she's been in the limelight. That's pretty unusual for a lot of people, and especially as child stars, a lot of those folks just kind of fade as they grow older, and that's a blessing in disguise. They may be completely, utterly at a loss within themselves because they were cute at one point, and then people don't find them any cute anymore because they're not kids anymore, right? JoJo's been able to reinvent herself and continue to find an audience, and that's something you can attribute largely to her Pluto in Sagittarius trining her Jupiter in Leo. That's quite a bit. Leo is also about fame, attracting loyal fans, for instance, enjoying the limelight. It can be a lazy sign, but with all this other Capricorn, all this earth energy, that suggests to me that she's pretty hardworking. With that fire energy, being able to sweep along quickly is why she's been able, part of the other reason why she's been able to stay in the limelight. When she's called upon to change and do things in a little bit of a different way, seeing that Pluto, she's able to do it quickly with all that fire energy. So it's hard work for her. You can see that with all this earth energy that I just finished talking about. But she also has the ability to do it. That's the talent. that, she was born with this, basically. Really interesting stuff. One more thing I thought was fascinating about her birth chart is that she has Neptune in Aquarius, and that is alongside Uranus in Pisces. Those two zodiac signs are in alignment with those two planets. Neptune is in Aquarius in the 11th house of society, and Uranus is in Pisces in the 12th house of secrets. So that tells me that she'll have a group of friends that she's cool with that sometimes are not good for her to be around. And that's where that whole aspect of not just being with older adults who have no business being in her life. Specifically, she's been in alignment with people who have preyed on children. Part of that is her Saturn and Gemini opposing her Pluto and Sagittarius. And that's why I suspect that there is a risk that she could go inverting towards adults that she trusts whom she shouldn't. Because this kind of tells me that she's attracted to the taboo. Unconsciously. She may not be aware of this, but that Uranus in Pisces in the 12th house of secrets tells me that she's attracted to people who do bad things. She doesn't understand, and she probably doesn't even notice this. If she were to, and there's the opportunity, and that's Saturn return that she has coming up in her later 20s, she would have the opportunity to notice, to become aware, and fix it. But the question is, will she? That Pisces is, and along with that Neptune, is kind of has the potential to be wishy-washy if she doesn't have the grounding, if she doesn't keep the grounding that she has so much of in her birth chart. She can choose to ignore that and go with the flow. On the other hand, there's the other strong likelihood that she could have with that Aquarius and its home planet Uranus flip all that up on its head and say, fuck you. I can't believe I ever connected with you. I don't know why why I did that. I don't want anything to do with you ever again. And that would be JoJo heading towards her highest self. It's interesting. Just then her first name and middle name popped into my head. That's when she would transform from JoJo into Joelle Joanie, the adult, who I would hope would one day have a healthy relationship with her inner child and her inner adult. I don't know with this particular, and again, I'm not covering the whole thing by any stretch of the imagination. There's more in there. I would hope that she would choose her highest self, because there's a really powerful tendency to go with what's already comfortable and hang out with adults that have no business. Hold out with older people. She's an adult, but hang out with older people who aren't good for her. It's going to be up to her to flip things on their head, and she has that ability. The ball is absolutely in her court, based on what I've read just from these 5 points in her birth chart, and there's a whole lot more. Okay, we're going to be here all day if I don't move on to other things. I've got 5 questions that I want to ask with my Tarot Lenormand cards. Let me shuffle, and I'll be right back. So I'm working with my Lenormand cards with this particular, what I wanted to say is I'm asking the question, who is she really? When it's just her, when she's behind closed doors, just her, who is she for real? What kind of person is she? We've already done a little bit of an evaluation with her birth chart. Let's actually see what my Lenormand cards say. I've laid her stuff out in a 9-card portrait spread, and it's kind of good for seeing how people are, giving a deeper look at what a situation might be. So it's a 3x3 spread. Her central theme is Clover. That's all about luck, or it's also about taking things lightheartedly. It's also about luck versus risk. So we'll get deeper into this. This is interesting. So in her top corners, she has Stork and she has Star. Right away, that's a pretty consistent cycle of fame. But also her wishes, hopes, and dreams change with time, gradually as she grows up. Really easy to see. So taking things lightheartedly, some risk reward when it comes to, or risk and luck, when it comes to what she really wants out of life. On her bottom row, on either end, we've got snake and we've got coffin. These are about lies that people don't necessarily see, because she does a pretty good job of hiding them, and that's where that 12th house of secrets is going to come in. That Uranus and Pisces, I believe, was in there. I could be wrong. I need to look back at my notes. But there might be an aspect where she suddenly turns around and hits somebody, or hits fans quite possibly, and it seemed to have been coming out of nowhere. But that coffin just sprang open, and here comes JoJo with a whole different new set of ideas that could be biting people in the ass. It could bite her in the ass. But she's the kind of person to repress how possibly, now this could be that Saturn and Gemini at work. There's an aspect of the snake that can be two-facedness. Can say one thing to one person, then turn around and say the exact opposite thing to someone else. There is a sense of, I do what I can to survive. This is between those two cards, between coffin, we've got coffin, fox, and snake. This is, I'm going to do what I can. She could be a bit of a backstabber, and she might hide this. This might be something that she picked up from somebody like Colleen Ballinger, because Colleen Ballinger's name just popped into my head. And I might do a reading on her sometime in the future. I get a lot of spiritual manure whenever I think of Colleen Ballinger, like there's spiritual shit just caving in. There's a lot around that chick that I don't want to spend too much time around. We'll get into it, okay? Coffin, fox, and snake, JoJo is willing to do what she feels like she needs to do in order to survive. And that can mean that she's a deeply selfish person. I noticed that her horizontal row, you have anima, clover, and fox, and that's the present. That's the present row in my particular 9-card spread. Anima in my particular Lenormand deck looks like this. This is the Seventh Sphere Lenormand that I'm working with today, and anima, JoJo, lands between star, wishes, hopes, and dreams, also about being famous, for instance, and it also has to do with stork. She's going to continue to repeat cycles unless she makes a deliberate choice not to repeat cycles. So from the early days of Dance Mom, she's continuing to hang out with people who she has no business being around. She makes friends with the wrong people, and the problem is that it's not necessarily people her own age. Her own age group, her own friends in her own age group, might be giving her good advice, but it's the older adults who give her bad, negative advice. And that's a real risk that she takes just by existing. And I feel like this started with her family, because Clover is landing on the house of the tree, and that's about this being a generational conflict. JoJo might have the opportunity to break karmic cycles, but the question is, will she? She has the ability. We visited her birth chart. She absolutely has the ability, but will she is the big question. So we've got this. There are some risks, real risks, that she takes by being a self-centered, I don't want to say little girl, but it's what popped into my head. There's a part of her, now child doesn't land in my particular spread, but there is that sense of a childlike aspect that she hasn't grown up from. And to be fair, she's just now hit her early 20s. I don't expect anyone to behave like an adult in their early 20s, but to start that process, absolutely, I do believe that. There's a part of her that is coming from her inner child, which doesn't have a strong relationship with her inner adult yet. Inner adult is still developing, but there's a selfish aspect to her. Self-centered, and part of it has to do with her feeling that this is what she needs to do in order to survive. It's lizard brain acting. She's not acting maliciously, although there is a real aspect to her that acts selfishly and strikes and hits people without intentionally always doing so. She might be the kind of person to say, get out of my way, I need to do this for me. And it is selfish. But does she have anything against that person, them personally? Not necessarily, okay? But there's that kind of Taurus energy where you've got a bull who's going to like just barrel through something in order to get to those nice, sweet alfalfa hay, that pile of alfalfa hay or whatever have you. But it's kind of like that, okay? You've got Snake. Now, this is on her future alignment. That future, not horizontal, vertical row. I should have said earlier, the vertical row, not the horizontal row. She's got Stork, Bouquet, and Snake. Now, Bouquet is about social, surface level social interactions. That also has to do with fans, being given gifts from fans is what I kind of associate this card and her particular spread, because she is a celebrity. Pretty consistently, she might be stabbing fans in the back. And people aren't necessarily going to see this because this lands on the House of Clouds. It's going to be difficult to see how she's stabbing them in the back. And now this is interesting. We're going back to that corner piece of Coffin, and I noticed it landed on the House of the Snake. People are just not flat out not going to see that she's lying to them about something. Part of that is that she has that Saturn in Gemini. When she communicates, she speaks from a really grounded place. She will sound like she's speaking from a grounded place, and people are just going to believe her. I'm getting TikTok that there's going to be some influence on TikTok. If she's not already doing it, there's going to be some real pull. And possibly with that in the past, I'll get to that in just a second. I'm talking so much. With Snake landing on the House of the Scythe, it's going to come to an end, but it's going to be a difficult end. It'll be fast, and you can see with that fire energy that it will be fast, but there's something about her lies that are going to cut something off, cut some fans off that want to have nothing to do with her, or ideally speaking, she could choose to end this behavior and become a better version of herself, but that's something that she would need to consciously do. It's not something that she would not something that she would stumble into by accident. It would be her deliberately changing her behavior for the better. So pretty consistently, because this lands on the House of the Clover, this is one of the corner pieces, one of the corner cards. She's had some pretty consistent luck, and I can see with that Clover landing on the House of the Tree that she has been consistently growing her luck. And that's just being born lucky. And with Pluto and Sagittarius, Sagittarius is a lucky sign, and so is Jupiter. So Jupiter and Leo, and with that Pluto and Sagittarius, she has quite a bit of lucky energy in her birth chart. She's just blessed, and she needs to recognize that. I hope that she chooses to do that as she's going through with her Saturn return later on in life. I hope that she realizes how blessed and lucky she is. So, a long family tree of luck, by the way. Her family comes from money. I don't have the fish card appearing in this particular spread, but she got lucky because she was born to family who have generational wealth, who were able to put her, audition her for Dance Moms even to begin with, right? That can get kind of closed doors, that can get kind of cloistered. JoJo got lucky because of her family, is what this is literally saying. So, yeah, it started from kind of a repressed kind of place in the sense that family kind of they didn't broadcast their desires for little JoJo to be a star. They didn't broadcast that from an early point. What fell on the floor was Snake. They possibly lied to people about what they were going to do with JoJo in order to get up ahead. And there's the real risk that there could be more lies surrounding her. You know, I'm looking at her diagonal of star, clover, and snake. It's like lies are going to continue to get what she wants. There's something that she's covering up that she really doesn't want people to see. And with that Uranus and Pisces in her 12th house, I think. Hang on. Yeah, Uranus and Pisces in her 12th house. There's going to be an aspect of her continuing to do taboo stuff behind the scenes that make her happy, and she's going to lie and project an image of being the good person, at least being the good kid, being the good woman, even being the good lesbian, for instance. But with this landing on the house of the scythe, there might be some real trouble brewing where that's concerned. So I'm going to pull these guys up. There's no more to pull from this particular spread. I'm going to ask another question. So what's the best kind of romantic partner for JoJo? Let's get into that. We're going to get into tarot for this particular question. So the first card I got was the Eight of Wands. In reverse, someone who's a bit slow, but someone who's also willing to take action when the universe tells them to take action. And when I say slow, I mean someone who's a slow burn, who doesn't burn out of control, who doesn't go too fast, who's grounded. Someone who is an earth sign like JoJo, or at least who has a lot of earth energy in their birth chart. It is key that they be ready to go whenever the universe wants them to go or do something. This means that she definitely needs to get someone who is deeply attached to their intuition. So possibly some water energy or some more fire energy, if you will. So fire and earth energy would be nice. It's possible that she would do best with somebody who's gone through a whole lot of heartbreak, of betrayal, of just going through adverse life events, for instance. She's going to relate better to someone who's been through stuff, but also who's choosing to recover. So in the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith, this card has a person lying on the ground, clearly dead, and 10 swords in their back. This is the cool version of this particular card. I like this because this tells me of someone who's choosing to move on and watch their pain fly away. I like it. She's going to need someone who is well adjusted, but has also been through things similar to JoJo, been through hard stuff like JoJo's been through, and may continue to go through if she doesn't start to, and like, let's be honest, the journey towards reaching our highest selves is often not easy, because it's not necessarily what the world wants for us. Society wants things for us that we can't always give it. And that's hard for a lot of people. Someone who's willing to fight for the right thing. And who's willing to go to battle if necessary in order to become a higher person. That's who JoJo would benefit from. Last and not least, someone who knows when not to live in their regrets, who knows that they might be someone who struggles with depression, to be honest. And I'm not saying that to talk about that's ideal for JoJo or anyone for that matter, not at all. But someone who understands that they struggle with depression and that staying in this mindset and not reaching out for help is a negative. And that might be something that JoJo struggles with behind the scenes. Not always. But there will be circumstances in the future when she realizes how much power she's ceded to older people who have no interest in her best, highest self. There might be a point where she just gets really, really depressed. And seeing that mirrored, again with that water energy, seeing that mirrored in someone else is going to be key possibly to JoJo and her partner, her wife, healing each other. And maybe she doesn't believe in marriage, right? Maybe she is happy having a forever partner, badass, okay? We're looking for someone who can work on their dreams. These two cards came out together. Someone who is deeply powerful, again, here comes that intuitive energy, and someone who has all kinds of dreams that they want to share with JoJo. They want to go traveling, they want to go do stuff together. Ideally, JoJo would do great with that kind of person. I can see that. With all that air energy in her chart, Pluto and let's see, what'd she have? She had Uranus in Pisces and Neptune in Aquarius, so quite a bit of air energy. This would be nice if she were to have someone who says, let's go travel, let's go, babe, let's just suddenly get our bags together, hop on the road, let's get the dogs, the cats, whatever, let's go. She's going to need someone who enjoys hanging out with other people and who possibly has a cool group of friends that JoJo can hang out with too. They can have fun with each other. It would be nice if they can help each other see the truths of their situations. This is about possibly, I would love to see JoJo's partner say, you don't have to think that way about this or yourself. You don't have to say that about yourself or about this particular situation. I would hope that JoJo could do the same for her partner. Last and not least, maybe not last and not least, she's got some good cards. I'm going to keep going until Spirit says to stop. Well, she got the Knight of Cups. It would be great if JoJo had someone who was deeply romantic, was poetic, was creative in their own right, and was really willing to explore some cool creative avenues with JoJo if JoJo wanted to work with her on a creative level. Earlier, I talked about luck. It would be a really lucky find for JoJo, and it would be cool if JoJo were to not let go of this person once JoJo finds her. It would possibly be that this particular partner would be lucky to find JoJo, right? That'd be kind of cool. It would be great if this person meant for JoJo as a romantic partner would be someone who consistently reached their highest selves, fought for their highest selves, even if that meant doing really difficult to get stuff together or separately from JoJo. I would love to see JoJo's romantic partner constantly be working for herself in the best way possible. We talk about working for ourselves. It may be that JoJo's partner has a lot of money, or if not a lot of money, has a lot of the things that make them materially comfortable and satisfied with life. Maybe JoJo's romantic partner has a farm. Maybe not literally, but has something that her romantic partner sustains herself by, works hard with, is passionate about, and gets to enjoy at the same time. Well, I talked about working together with. There we go. Working together with, taking initiative. And also, Queen of Pentacles came out. It would be great if JoJo's romantic partner didn't also embody that Queen of Pentacles energy that I mentioned earlier that JoJo would also do well as. There's a lot of cool feminine energy in this. So I would love to see JoJo become deeply attracted to somebody who would be a great parent in case they wanted to become parents, right? But someone who's comfortable handling money in a great positive way. Somebody who's willing to work for the good of her family with her and JoJo, right? That would be ideal. But there's all kinds of, I see a love for beauty and fun things and groundedness. There's a lot of good stuff here. Groundedness while also moving forward. This romantic partner may be an earth sign, maybe a fire sign, or they may have an influence of both, a strong influence of both at the same time in their birth chart. So it'd be kind of a potential opposites and similar people would attract. I guess what this romantic partner would have to watch out for is having kind of clashing earth and fire energy. Those energies don't necessarily get along well together. And, for instance, you can put out a grass fire by pulling up some dirt and throwing it on the grass fire. If you don't have water, you can do that in order to put out a grass fire, if you have time to do that kind of thing. So there is that suggestion that JoJo's romantic partner, if she has earth and fire energy, she could become too lazy, too comfortable in what is already working for her and for her family that she would have with JoJo. There might be the risk that she'd become too comfortable and stop moving forward with that fire energy. Okay, let's ask another question. What have we got? Okay, this has to do with adults who don't serve her anymore. What's the best kind, or what I should say is, what can she do to divest herself of those who seem predatory? And by predatory, I'm talking about Colleen Ballinger, and I'm talking about James Charles. JoJo seems to be hanging out with those kinds of people, and those two at least, if not other kinds of people, who aren't good for her in that way, who are predatory in some way. I'll be right back. So let's talk about what JoJo can do to let go of people who are predatory, who have no business being in her life. Predatory towards children is what I should say. I've laid out my Lenormand cards in a 7-card spread, and in the middle is Fox. It lands on the house of the house, which talks to me about her recognizing that she retains habits that no longer serve her, that are for survivalism. There may be an unconscious part of her, an animal brain kind of thing, or I should say lizard brain thing, that says that she needs to align herself with those kinds of people because that's the industry. That's what you do. Those are some old beliefs that her family may have possibly passed down on to her, and they're not true. Yeah, it is frequently the case that there are predatory adults who are in major positions of power in Hollywood and in content creation in general. That seems to be a trend. She needs to understand that she doesn't need to survive in order to continue to be famous. She doesn't need to have this aspect of her that says, I need to be with these people in order to be famous. It sucks, but I'm going to shrug my shoulders and head along my way. At least it didn't happen. At least they're not behaving that way towards me. At least I'm not old enough. I'm not the age where they would do that to me. It might have happened to her earlier. She might have been preyed on as a child, and there's maybe part of her that thinks this is normal. Book ending, Fox. We have Snake and Book. This is about revealing lies, about learning secrets that were lies, if you will, facts that she thought were facts, but in fact were told that she was told that to keep her in line. It's going to be eye-opening. It's going to be an educational experience, is seeing how people lied to her, how people manipulated her to get what they wanted out of her. These will be older adults that she trusted, and it'll just suck. It'll be tough on her, especially since she's doing this because she feels like she needs to survive. Yes, it is selfish to behave this particular way, but lizard brains are selfish by nature. It's deactivating the lizard brain that takes so much work and effort that she's going to have to do. Bookending that, Book and Snake, we've got Bouquet and Mountains. These are about difficult social interactions. It's always been difficult for her to be around these people. There's that Capricorn and that Saturn aspect in her birth chart. She needs these people, and also Chiron and Capricorn in her 10th house of fame. It's just difficult for her to be famous, but she feels like she has no choice. This is how she survives. So far, and I'm not even finished yet, if she's going to divest herself of these people who are predatory towards children, she's going to have to hop out of her survivalist brain and switch into something else that serves her better. Last and not least, on either end, we've got Star and Tree. if she can do this, well, the risk is, got it backward. The risk is that she continues to use these interactions to boost her up in terms of what she wants to do when it comes to being famous, to being influential. Because again, that's her lizard brain at work here. If she were to think better, more clearly, I should say, if she were to think more clearly about whether she actually wants to be aligned with these people, then she could kind of start to pull a thread up from the rug, so to speak, and do some investigating into herself as to why she heads towards these people when she doesn't have to repeat those cycles from the past. I saw with her spread that Stork appeared alongside Anima, which signified her. She's repeating cycles that she doesn't have to, because what she really wants, that's what she feels like she has to do. She has to repeat these cycles in order to get what she wants. And again, it's her lizard brain at work. It's not something that she's consciously doing. It's half consciously, half asleep, half awake when it comes to habits that get her what she wants, even when what she wants isn't always a good thing, and how she's getting it is often not a good thing either. Let's switch into another question. What does she really want out of life, and is she getting it? What can she do to get it if she's not getting it? So I'm going to use my tarot cards. I'm going to lay out a Celtic cross. I'll be right back. So what does she really want out of, or is that my question? What does she really want out of life? Yeah, and is she getting it? What can she do to get it if she isn't? So with all my talk about authority figures and her going her own way, it's definitely giving some advice about being in charge of what she wants to be in charge of having a stable enough foundation for herself that she can take care of herself without the influence of others. It's about basically being the ruler of your own property. You're in charge. That's your stuff. Those are your results to enjoy. There is some independence being suggested here. And I note that her King of Pentacles, I should say it's in reverse because it's headed towards the past. It's pointing to the past. There's something about a father figure, or at least a feminine person who has a deeply powerful influence in her life, as in JoJo obeys this person. This could be kind of in alignment with that Saturn Capricorn influence in her birth chart that we discussed. There's going to be something about this that she's going to have to let go of, because I said earlier that her fame is due partly towards her family's influence. And in this case, family might be king. Family might be saying, you need to do this, you need to do that. And because this is the challenge card, with the Nine of Pentacles, she's supposed to become this, but her challenge is learning to break habits that she learned from family structures. Guess what's in her past? The King of Swords. So there's a lot of really powerful family energy in here that has managed her life. She might have a momager, if you will, someone who was sharp, was thinking on their feet a whole lot, who planned way ahead in the future, maybe even has a little bit of legal experience, but knows how to play the field because they're a far-seeing person. With that King of Pentacles energy, not only are they're grounded in how they handle their finances and how they handle JoJo's influence, but with that King of Swords, they're smart about it too. They tell her to reinvent herself, and so she does. They tell her to do this and do that, and she does, and she's successful. I don't know how much influence they have over her right now while she's in her kiss stage, but I'm hoping that she can learn to let go of, have a healthier balance, have like some moderation with listening to them versus doing her own thing. Up top in the conscious area, you have the Ace of Pentacles in reverse. She's missing out on opportunities to break away from authority figures, older adults in her life who mean well, most of the time. Well, with them in reverse, one upright, there's definitely this unhealthy obsession with money, but also thinking about how to do it with that King of Swords. And JoJo, in the meantime, is missing out on opportunities for spiritual growth, but also opportunities to grow her own material comfort. It's kind of unfortunate, and I can see it gives JoJo a whole lot of anxiety. Like, this is something that she thinks about a whole lot. It's something that overwhelms her mind and really puts her in a state of misery, wanting to break free, wanting to be on her own person. And I bet she sees these opportunities and hates that she's missing them because mom, dad, family around her have said, no, you can't do this. And you know what? These King of Pentacles, sorry about my itchy nose, these King of Pentacles might point to dad. I didn't do any research on dad. I don't know anything about dad. She might have a mom, two moms in her life. I don't even know that she has like a dad presence in her life, or she ever did. But that could just as easily point to family structures, or even a female parent, a feminine parent, who had a really, really overwhelming amount of power in her life. In JoJo's future position, she has the Emperor. Now, she can choose, with the advice card being the Lovers, she can choose to become the Emperor of her own life, the ruler of her own life, if she wants to. The Emperor is the sum of all the kings: King of Pentacles, King of Swords, King of Wands, King of Water. That's all four underneath her belt. And with it being upright, she would need to have all those kings, all her emotions, her intuition, her compassion, her love, her excitement, her creativity, her ability to think, her ability to invest, be a good business person. All of that would need to be in balance if she can come into the energy of the Lovers. And that's not about romantic partnership necessarily with this particular spread. It would help, but what I think is going to help most if she can get into that Gemini energy, because the Lovers is also the signifying card of Gemini. It used to be the Sun card because there were two babies on that card. But here with the Lovers, that's the sign of Gemini. If she can come into her power and balance out the two energies, or the four energies, I should say, the two opposing energies. You've got fire, you've got earth, you've got water, and those kinds of things. If she can handle opposites attract, then she can come into this idea of she can come into the power of being and the Emperor of her own life. I would love to see her like that. But she would need to first grow into this aspect of herself of not being so jaded, of not expecting the worst out of stuff, because this might be a place where she grows into. With that Emperor, sometimes emotions are kind of thrown out of balance. Like, emotions aren't always her strongest suit when this is in reverse. There might be too much grounded energy, too much thought energy, too much fire energy, but not enough water energy. Feeling emotions and not being overwhelmed by them, feeling compassionate, feeling loving. There might be a point where she's just tired of being treated badly, so she's not willing to start something new and cool and emotional. She's not willing to enjoy her inner child. She might stuff her inner child down and avoid working with it when it comes to uniting her inner child and her inner adult. That is something that she's going to need to watch out for. And if she can bring herself into playful unity with herself, she won't need anyone. Won't be desperate for someone. Of course, there's somebody for everybody, right? But ideally, she can be her own whole person without feeling like she needs someone to complete her. Right now in her environment card, she is doing new stuff. That's not a bad thing. I'm hoping that it's in balance with what she wants and not with what the older adults in her life want. With her hopes and her fears, she's desperately afraid of being isolated from isolated from fans, isolated from the crowd. She doesn't like being alone at all In fact, she gets fidgety, she gets anxious, she gets desperate, and even has like bouts with depression when she has to be alone. I asked what she was like behind closed doors, just by herself, and I don't know how often she is just by herself behind closed doors. It's pretty rare, is what I'm getting. Not very often. Like, she closes the door, but family's just on the other side, ready to bust in if she says or does anything that concerns them. Stifling is what I get. It would be stifling for a lot of people, but she likes it because she doesn't like being alone. But then also I can see the potential that she does want to be alone. She's just deeply uncomfortable with being alone to begin with. And this is where she would kind of struggle, quite possibly, to grow into her highest self. There might be some of that survivalist aspect going on here with the Hermit. Bad things might have happened when she was alone, and she just learned just not to be alone. That might be something that's a struggle for her. I'm getting that Chiron in Capricorn, where she's going to have a tendency to not want to change, especially with it landing in her 10th house. There might have been something that she doesn't want to change, a habit that she picked up when she first became famous that she is not willing to let go of, and part of that may be not wanting to be alone, not wanting to live alone, not wanting to have a separate RV if for some reason she's in her trailer. She doesn't want to be separate from people, not just her family. Let's move on to another question. What have I got? Okay. Last one. What is this incarnation of JoJo's soul here to do? And is she doing it? What can she do to course correct if she isn't doing it? I think that we've established that she probably isn't going towards... She's making slow baby steps towards going towards her highest good, because there is a deeply intuitive, passionate part of her that wants what's best for herself. But she's having a real struggle between what she wants for herself and what the older adults in her life who are so influential, what they want for her. Let me pick these guys up and we'll talk. So I've laid out Lenormand cards in a 7-card spread. In the center of it, I have a letter. It's about documenting a public journey towards revolutionizing what it is that she has repressed, what it is that she has lied to her audience about. And it has to do with her taking the luck that she's gotten from her fans. She's taken it too lightheartedly for too long, and her being honest about her journey towards becoming a better person, not just for herself, but for her audience, is going to be key. And even if she's thinking about doing this one day, I asked what she is put here on earth to do, and I feel like since she's already a role model, since people are already watching her, if she can be an example and lead by becoming her best and highest self, then she will inspire at least one other person, if not many, many thousands of people, to go on their own journeys and become their own cool people, their own cool selves. I would love to see her do this. It would take some maturity, and with that Saturn in Gemini, with her being able to communicate easily with adults, there is the potential that she could choose to become a really cool, solid, grounded adult, a cool role model for other people to follow. I've said adult a whole lot in this particular conversation. It's not that I don't believe that she isn't, but in many ways I feel like she's a girl. A child in many ways is what I should have said. And that if she can grow into an understanding of how she came by her luck and how she can break karmic cycles, how she can step out of the survivalist mindset, she's going to be an incredible role model to people. And I think that's part of why she's here on Earth. I think that's part of why she got so lucky with family who were at the right place at the right time to provide JoJo with a platform of an early stage. I disagree with children being made into stars. I think it inherently puts them at a disadvantage. But JoJo can turn this on its head and turn into a really, really cool person that people want to imitate. And I think that's all there is to it. I hope JoJo goes towards this. I hope she goes towards her best and highest self. And I hope that she lives a life that she's proud of. I hope that she has a legacy when she's very, very old and looking back at her life. I hope that she's enjoying and proud of her legacy. I wish her the best of luck. Y'all take care. Thanks for watching.